Okay, let's see if this works. So, I have it all written down. Okay. Um, autobiography of understanding of race, racism, racially marginalized group that I would like to research for this particular class. So, starting with race, that would be a construction intended to be a system of control that is weaponized, or was weaponized rather, in order to have this foundation of capitalism. I am specifically thinking of Indigenous peoples' history of the United States as one of my kind of fundamental texts that has shaped my understanding of race. I think my construction of race and racism, when I was younger, when I was in grade school, I had this foundation that was colorblind. That's what was adhered to in the curriculum. That was what was adhered to in my own home. Was this colorblind mentality. And because, we're going to be positive, everybody is one, I don't see color, trying to have this idea that of goodness or equality, but completely missing the beat, completely missing the whole point. So that was really my foundation, and I began to question it when in high school, and I could only see certain students in my classes. When I could only see in honors language arts, I only had rich white kids. And then when I would take computer technology, which was required of every single person in the school, it was completely different. The makeup of the class was completely different. So that was kind of the beginning roots. And now my construction of racism, I've narrowed it down to just a few texts that I'll talk about right now. Tatum's Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria, and Other Conversations About Race. In addition, D'Angelo's White Fragility. So those two texts, in conjunction with Ava DuVernay's documentary 13th, were core shaking in really constructing my idea of what racism is and how completely embedded into every single facet of our lives, our government, our education system, our interactions with others, just everything. And since those foundational pieces, Kendi's Stamp from the Beginning, and Brian Stevenson have kind of helped to take me a step further in terms of my construction of racism. And I think there's this one paper by Tara Goldstein, Vanessa Russell, and Andrea Daly called Safe, Positive, and Clearing Moments in Teaching, Education, and Schooling. It was published in 2007. But that was the work that helped bring the intersection of all of this together, in terms of teaching, my construction of race and racism, and how to be a co-conspirator within those. So crafting these queering moments, these times of resistance, because they can only be moments when you are living in a white supremacy. As far as a specific racially marginalized group, I would like to look at Black with a capital B girls, and I would want to do this specifically in K-12 education because that's my focus and what I live and breathe every day. And my reasoning why I would want to do this is because I have students who are Black girls, and in my particular school, they tend to be the only Black girl in their class. And I want to know why. I want to know how that's constructed. I want to know how we kind of remove the veil of why they're being intentionally silenced. So moving on from that kind of foundational piece and your questions about Black males, my previous contact with Black males and relationships. So I can think of kind of one of my foundational relationships was with a Black teacher, my French teacher in junior high school, Monsieur Doumbia. And he was one of the first Black men that was this positive, energetic, wonderful teacher that got me excited about French. And he was also the very first person to tell me I needed glasses. So that has helped me throughout my whole life. So he was in a position of authority. And after that amazing teacher, when I entered high school, I had one of my best friends in the whole world, Habib. He was amazing. I haven't talked to him in a long time though. We lost touch after high school, but he was always that friend I could go to if I was really sad or if we both wanted to laugh. We had a film production class together all throughout high school, and so we had so much time to be creative together. I think those are like the two biggest examples of contact with specifically Black men in my growing up time period. Misinformation would definitely be that it was never explicit that I can remember, but it was to fear Black men a little bit, but not, that was never explicitly stated, but that was the sentiment that I was receiving as a child. My parents never said that out loud. But I remember that when I was, I think 13, my mom told me you can date anybody you want to as long as they love and appreciate who you are. But if you brought home a man who's Black, then I think your dad would eventually be okay with it, but it might make him uncomfortable at first. And I thought that was, at the time, so bizarre because it contradicted what she said first. It was just so strange. And I think that still troubles me because my father was this, and is to this day, this source of, he has all the intelligence. If I'm ever in trouble or if I ever need anything, he's the guy to go to. And to have my mom say that he might have an issue with a man who is Black, and any way to frame it just was kind of really shook me. And he's never had expressed any sentiments like that after. I think what I need more of going into the later half of this second year of my PhD, in terms of really thinking about misinformation or prejudice or bias that I am examining, or thinking about Black men, I think I need to hear from Black men. I need more of individual voices, and remembering that, again, one Black man does not represent all Black men. And so the more voices I have, the better understanding and the better I can break down my own, whether I realize it or not, biases. I teach that documentary I mentioned before earlier, Ava DuVernay's 13th, which examines the calculated and intentional framing of Black men as rapists and murderers and violent and abusive, and turns it on its head. So I teach that every day in third quarter, which we're in right now as of today. Today's the last day to get grades in for quarter 2. So we're in the midst of this unit that I've created that examines how social movements impact lives, specifically examining Dr. King's letter from Birmingham jail and really looking at the context of that letter and using DuVernay's 13th as a way to frame it. That this letter isn't coming out of nowhere. There's a whole foundation behind this piece, and then now what do we do with it? What do you do as a student? I hope that this first video went okay. I don't know. I'm gonna try to play it back, but now it's 12 minutes long, so we'll see what happens.